session, right? My goal is to show you how interviews are graded, right? Technical interviews are graded. My name is Soham. Ryan also just joined. We are the founders of the program. Steph and Katie from Interview Kickstart are also online today. All right, a little bit about me. Currently founded Interview Kickstart. Right? Most recently, right before this, I was a director of engineering at Box, and also a very early engineer there. Box, as many of you know, was one of the fastest growing SaaS companies on the planet for several years in a row. I was very lucky to be a fifth engineer there, and when I left, I was a director of engineering, and I left at the time of IPO. Before that, I was early at eBay as well. And also I was at Microsoft. I've worked at a startup. And I also worked at a mid-sized company. So I've had experience working in all different kinds of setups in my career. It's very standard education, master's in computer science and 15 plus years in the field. But what is more interesting is my interview related experience. I've conducted countless technical interviews by now, lots and lots of offers extended from my own budget. I've made offers, I've rescinded offers, right? I have revised offers, I've lost people to Googles and Facebooks, I've gained people from Googles and Facebooks, the whole 9 yards. I've stressed about them, right? I've had other people stress about them. That entire process, I've lived through it from all its nooks and corners. I've helped companies set interview processes as well. Right? As Interview Kickstart, we are fairly well connected in the tech hubs of the US, and there are directors and VPs of engineering who are very sensitive to interview processes. So we have helped them too. I've helped headhunters screen candidates, managed and trained scores of interviewers, and coached countless software engineers. This is something that I cherish, right? The interviewing experience that I have is what I cherish the most. I've been connected with interviews forever since. Like my mind has been tuned to that for a long time. In this. Let me ask you a couple of quick questions, okay? And feel free to put it on chat if you would like. Why do companies even talk to you at all, right? They could just look at your lead code profile, but they could just look at your HackerRank profile, right? They could send you a HackerRank test or some other random test, right? And just give you an offer letter, right? If the test cases pass. Right? Why don't they do that, right? After all, it is so time consuming and costly to actually interview someone, right? You have an entire elaborate process for every engineering position, right? And these companies hire, big ones especially, hire thousands and thousands of people every quarter, right? You can imagine the recruiting machine that it needs, right? Why do they invest so much in the recruiting machine? Yeah. Can anyone estimate the amount of dollars companies spend on each face-to-face interview? Any guesstimates? You can put them in chat. 10K, 20K. Each interview, in the sense, not in filling the position, right? If I'm the candidate, right, they source me, right? They respond to my emails, they pick up the recruiter phone calls, right? Then they follow up, right? Then there is a technical phone screen, like they have to schedule a technical phone screen to find an interviewer and make sure they have the right environment to do the technical phone screen, right? Then they have to find the interviewer, find the feedback for me, right? Then they have to bring me on site. They have to schedule all the interviews on site, right? And then to set the interviews, that they have to talk to the hiring manager, right? Figure out what the panel should look like, right? Then they have to like juggle between interviewers, look at their schedules and say, yeah, this day that can happen, this day that can happen. Then they have to come back to me and say, so these are the days that we can do interviews on. And then I would say no, and then they have to go back again, right? Come back, and then they set the panel. Then they are there to receive me when I go there, right? And today I suppose I don't go anywhere, but when we are not in lockdowns, right? We used to go and they would receive, and then they would like reserve the room and take you from one room to the other. Then there is lunch, and then you send off right after the interviews are done. That's a massive expense. I'll tell you how to judge that. It actually depends on the level you are interviewing, right? Very interestingly. Like for example, companies that are very thoughtful about the interview process, they will put the interviewers would be higher than the position you are interviewing for. So if you're interviewing for L5, which is senior engineer at Google, Facebook, they would put L6s and L7s. In rare cases, they would put L5s, but practically never L3s, for example. Right? L4s, they maybe if the recruit doesn't know and stuff, but generally the same level, right? or or higher. Right? So higher you go, the more expensive it is to interview. Right? And obviously, the higher you go, the number of positions also shrink. So the dollar volume remains the same. But think about this: like L6 at Google starts at 450K a year. Right? 450K a year is $225 an hour. Right? So right off the bat, just $225 an hour are spent by that interviewer, right, to interview you, right? If you are at L6, right, plus, if you are interviewing at L5, the L6 person interviews you. L6 person earns $225 an hour, right, in a single day, plus all the interruption that they had to take, right, plus all the feedback that they had to write and conversations they had to have. And yet count another hour. That's like $450 per person minimum, plus all the interruption that they had from their work, right? There are statistics that 1 minute of interruption can cause 15 minutes of delays, right? And this is like a massive interruption, right, for it. So when you have one interview in the day, like a third of your day is just gone, right, for it. So the cost of interruption is just massively high. So so yes, roughly about 5 figures, right, is in the ballpark, right? Few $1,000s per candidate that they spend. Why the hell do they do that? Right? And it's not like the candidate is going to get an offer and join, right? Soham might not get an offer, and Soham, even if he gets an offer, he may not join. Then why the hell go through this entire process? Right? Why not just send 4 problems to Soham, have the test cases pass, and generate the offer letter and call it the day? Right? You see, you could say, dude, like you have to talk to Soham, right? So you have to talk to the person. What's the point here? Like the point is, if you just wanted to talk to Soham or whatever, any candidate it is, right, you could just send them the questions, all the test cases pass, bring them on site for an hour or two, like have fun, lunch, dinner, right, giggle, and you're done, right? Why can't we do that? Right? See, they don't do that, right? Like, and they're not dumb people, right? Of all the people, right, these guys are not dumb, right? So they are obviously thought about this. The point is that they want to see your thought process when you are challenged. How do you think when you are challenged? How systematically do you think when challenged is really the point? Right? When I'm at lunch and dinner, you're not challenging me, right? When I'm just having a chit chat, I'm not being challenged, right? When you're posing a problem at me is when I'm challenged, right? All right. And you want to see how I react, right? What are the thought processes? What are the questions that come to my mind? And what is, like, how do I logically go from one step to the next and finally arrive at something that works for the situation presented? That is what they want to find out, right? Now, because of that, right, they take on all this cost. And then how do they find that out, right? When I'm in the interview and I'm the candidate, right, and you are the interviewer, what you are looking for is signals, right? Like signals from Soham, right? I'm presenting a problem to Soham and Soham is saying stuff. What is Soham bringing out? Right? So, and when the signals come out, how do you actually stratify those signals? Right? How do you tell that one candidate is better than the other? Like one thing you do is you ask the same question or very similar question to two people. But then what? Then what? Like what is it that tells you that this candidate is better than the other? That is why there is a grading scale in every single interview. So what happens is, and some of you already know this, what happens is that every company worth its salt has a grading rubric for every single interview, right? There is a 45-minute to an hour interview. The interviewer talks to you, asks a question, right? All that jazz happens. The moment they exit that room or the Zoom call, right? Or whatever call, Facebook uses Blue Jeans and Amazon uses their Chime and whatever their own products are. The moment they exit from there, they give you a grade. There is a grading scale in every company. They give you a grade. They don't tell you the grade. No recruiter will ever tell you the grades. Grades are highly confidential. Right? They can't leak. They can give you some feedback, right? But that's all that is. The real feedback is in the gradation. And every company has its different grading scale. Right? LinkedIn follows a 10-point scale, Amazon follows a 4-point scale, Box follows a 5-point scale, right? Google follows a 6-point scale, and such. Google used to follow decimal scale for a long time. So, and they kept on evolving it. Today I'll show you a grading scale, right? I show you the idea in a grading scale. And then we will take a problem, right? One of my favorite problems there, and I will make it more real for you. Let's see. So here is a grading scale, right? Here is what companies are trying to do. If the interviewer gives you a 1, then that means the interview is like completely off, right? It's like if I'm the interviewer, like I was talking in English, you're talking in French. Like I couldn't hear you, you couldn't hear me. Like so it's completely 2 different lanes. It's like, good Lord, I will fight for you to not be in this company. Right? Like that's a 1. Right? 2 is like you tried something. Like I can see that you wanted to solve something. You wanted to solve this. But there was no urge for efficiency. Or if there was urge for efficiency, there weren't good ideas on the table. Right? You just stopped close to some sort of a brute force solution. So it's the most obvious brute force solution. Right? You stopped. That's like a 2. Then 2 plus is like good effort. Right? Now I can see it was better than 2. Like you tried. It wasn't good enough. Right? I don't think you reached where I wanted you to reach. Good effort though, right? Like I admire your effort, right? As we have all been in situations like this, right? Where we admire somebody's effort, right? Not just pleasantries, right? I'm not talking about just pleasantries. Hey, good job. No. It's like, wow, like you tried, right? Like that is what a 2 plus is. Right? You didn't get there, but you know what? I'll take a note. You tried. Right? That's a 2 plus. 3 is like good enough. Good. Like you tried, you reached, you checked all the boxes, right? Good enough. 4 is like, God, this was inspirational, right? Like when do you start? Right? That is amazing, right? It wasn't just good enough, right? 4 is like, it was like we made a connection, right? I'm inspired by you. I would love to collaborate with you on technical matters, right? Just let's start, right? I'm going to be a champion, right? When the interviewer, the panelists are discussing stuff, right? I'm going to be your champion. Right? That is what 4 is. Right? And 3 is like good enough. So what happens is that generally speaking, right, for 3 and 4, right, you get hired. Right? The decision is higher, right? So let's say there are 5 panelists in the interview, right? And then they discuss the performance. When they discuss the performance, everybody puts up their numbers to say, I gave a 3 or a 2 or a 2 plus or a 4 or whatnot. If generally everybody gives 3s and 4s, there is no debate. The candidate is clear, right? Yeah, okay, let's make an offer. And then it is between the hiring manager and the recruiter to find numbers and stuff like that. Somebody gave a 2 plus or a 2, then a discussion ensues. There is like a proper group debate happens, right? And sometimes the debate is intense, sometimes the debate is long. I've been in debates for an hour and a half, right? For a single interview. At that point of time, the person who gave you a 4, right, defends you. Right? Like they take one stand, and the person who gave you a 1 take the other stand. Right? 1 is very rare, very, very rare. Right? So usually it's like 2 plus. The person, if you got a 4, that person defends you in that conversation. If you got a 3, the person does not defend you. Right? If you got, if say you only one person gave you a 3, the other people give you a 2 plus, they'll just give up and say, yeah, okay, fine, you gave all 2 pluses, I'm not going to defend it. Like I was a 3. So at 4, you mint champions, right, in the company for you. Generally speaking, you can statistically proven that good candidates can be wrong once. Right? Like 1 interview can go bad, 2 interviews cannot go bad. 2 interviews and you will not get enough. But generally, if there are 2 people in a room who have given you 2s or 2 pluses, doesn't really work. So this is a very human process. Is the point I'm trying to make here. Right? Internet has made us feel like it is about test cases passing and stuff like that. Right? It is actually not the case. Right? You may not come up with the by far the most optimal solution to a problem, but if you presented your case and a thought process in a proper manner and you made the connection with the interviewer, you will still sail through, right? We all know people who we wonder why how the hell is this person at Google or Facebook, right? They are not that technically strong, or like this, look at that other girl or a guy, like that person is so technically strong and they failed this X interview. That problem, that issue, right, is a lack of understanding of what interviews actually are, right? um, Now at IK, we obviously go very detailed into this, right? And we have a detailed feedback form. I will not go through all the I'll not go through the entire feedback form at the moment, but I'll show you a little bit. We give you a technical score, right? We also give you a behavioral score, right? Obviously, mock interviews are just one part of the entire process, right? We have several other things. We have intense live classes and homeworks and tests and all that. Mock interviews are but one part, but we take it seriously. We separate a technical score from the behavioral score. We have a behavioral ladder as well, because we want to be able to tell you things like awesome technical performance, but boss, you were arrogant. Right? So those are the things that we don't want you to see, right? We want you to like put a finger on it and say, boss, fix this. Right? And then we dive into technical side of things, right? All the little things. How many hints did you have to give? You see, like it's not like one hint is good enough and two is not, right? It is more about what did I feel at that time. Right? At that moment, as that interviewer for that problem and for that performance, did I feel that two hints was too much? Then I would say yes, right? More than I would have liked. All right. I go to the next interview, ask the same question. It's a different person, different performance, right? And different hour of the day. I feel like, yeah, 5 hints, sure, that's fine. I think just enough hints. It is not in your hands. Right? This is not in your hands. All right. Those rubrics, there is no gradation on this. That's where the interviews are a date as much as they are a test. Remember this, that will help you forever when you think about any interview. And again, we keep going into depths of technical grading. We keep going depths into behavioral grading as well. Right? How confident did you appear? Did you start writing code without thinking the algorithm? What was the energy level? Like, for example, some people are just habitually low energy, or they are low energy because the cultural norms make them low energy, right? Low energy is modest and such. But, you are in an interview, right? Like you can't be modest, right? On it. You can't be too high energy also, but you can't be pushover. As a senior engineer, especially, you can't be modest, right? You can't be arrogant. You have to know how to tread that line, right? And so we actually like suss that out and say, this was low energy. Low energy in an interview is being a pushover. Right? Curiosity level, humility. Did you feel the candidate worked hard? So all these things will bring out, right, in an interview. Now, let's try and make this more real. Right? Let's do a problem. Right? This is, I have several problems over the years that have made it to my list of favorite problems and least favorite problems as well. This is the upcoming problem is one of those problems. This problem is a easy to medium range problem. Some of you may already know how to solve it, but that is not the point that I'm trying to make. Some of you have may have never seen this before, right? And that is also not the point I'm trying to make. I will solve it with you, right? For you, with you, right? In the next 20-25 minutes. And my goal is to show you the gradation. So see, if you go this far, boss, that's a 2. If you go this far, it is a 2+. If you go this far, it's It's a 3. If you go this far, damn, it's a 4. Right? So I want you to exit today with a very clear understanding that there is gradation. The gradation is subjective, but there is still some method to this madness and why the gradation happens. Right? Correct. Okay, so now let's try and solve this. Right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to just write right inside the slide here. Okay. Given n strings, return groups of anagrams. Now, this is arguably a slightly vague problem statement. Right off the bat, some of you will know that some things are missing. When I present this problem to you, what are some of the questions that you will ask me? Give me something to just begin with. I don't mean to spend 2 hours on this, but still give me something to begin with so I can actually sort of guide the room in the right direction. What is an anagram? Excellent, Avish. Example, input, output. Yes, Sagar. Very, very good 2 questions. What is an anagram? Now, in trying to ask what is an anagram, some people feel very shy. Right? I should know what anagrams are. And some people, clarifying questions, yes. Right? I've seen many people not ask clarifying questions. Right? Like, they assume anagrams are palindromes. Right? Anagrams are not palindromes. Right? So let me give you input output example as well. Right? You can and should ask, can you please give me an example? That is what is called controlling the interview, right? In the sense, I do give you a problem, but you are controlling me now, right? I just presented a problem. If it's a tennis match, I hit it. Right? Now the ball is in your court. Now you control, right? That's the idea. Now, okay, so input output example, I'll tell you. What are anagrams? It is okay if you don't know what anagrams are, right? The word anagrams are words which are the same length and the same letter. So words ATE, EAT, right, and TEA, they are anagrams of each other, for example. Yeah. Obviously, there are many more examples like stop, pods, right? Tops. They are also anagrams of each other, right? So this is one group of anagrams. This is another group of anagrams. So now you're given n strings and now you're supposed to find anagrams and return groups of anagrams to me. My goal is not to write elaborate code right now. My goal is to drive a point home for it. Okay, so first 2 very basic questions came about. Excellent. Right? Let me tell you what I'm looking for now. Right? I'll tell you that all the strings are of the same length, right? And let's say the strings are length k. All the strings are length k. Okay, they may or may not be part of dictionary. Doesn't really matter. Right? And if I give you a jumble of words like this, right? They can be any order, right? Doesn't really matter. So let's see. STO. Okay, say I give you this, right? Then I want ATE, EAT, TEA, right? As one, and then just reduce the size. And I want to see STO, TS, TOS. Okay. That's what I want to see. Like I want to see the first group first, then the second group second, right? Ideally, I want to see something like group 1, right? Some sort of a lookup table, right? To say group 1 has ATE, group 2, like that, right? group 3. And yes, there may be. What about case sensitivity? Excellent question. Look, we are not generating anagrams. You are just given something. All you are doing is grouping them and returning them. That's all. All right. This is what I ideally want. You could negotiate a slightly different output also. They don't have to be valid words. They don't have to be part of dictionary. None of that. Okay. For now, let's just say just this, right? And then any other words after that are following. We are not generating anagrams. So we are not making permutations. Yes, anagrams are permutations, Anushil, you are absolutely correct. But we are not generating them. Right? We are accepting them as they are, and we are simply grouping them, coming them out. Now, at this point, we know that all strings are length k, right? Should the groups be sorted? No need. No need. No, I just want them grouped. That's it. All I want is I want them grouped. Doesn't really matter. Like the T could come first. That's also fine. Good question. Very good question. And this is okay. Good. Always ask clarifying questions. If you don't ask clarifying questions, what do you get? What do you get? You get a 1 or a 2. If you don't ask clarifying questions and you're not able to solve the problem, obviously we were speaking in different languages. Right? You get a 1. If you don't ask clarifying questions and you just blurt the solution out on the board, obviously I know that you've seen this before, you're not admitting it. Right? You get 1 or maximum 2. Have to ask clarifying questions. Right? And even if you happen to know the problem, right, you should admit it. Boss, I might have seen something like this before, maybe in practice or a different company. Leave it vague, right? And then when you ask questions, ask some presumptive questions. Right? So you don't want the groups to be sorted, right? You don't want the groups to be sorted, right? Like that way. Right? Instead of asking, should the groups be sorted? Say, no, you don't want the groups to be sorted, right? Just sort of presumptively. Here is my favorite question and the most annoying one also. Sorry, no offense ever. But is there any time complexity and space complexity I have to consider? Please, for the sake of Lord, do not ask that. Do not ask that. The game is not to chase certain time complexities, right, and stuff. It is not like here is the input, here is the output. Right? No. The game is to know your thought process. So I want to see whether you chase certain time complexity and space complexity or not. Do you justify that this is the end of it? Do you justify to you and me that there is something, some other improvement can happen here? Right? Like, do you have that sense that this can be improved further? That is critical, guys. Right? Don't ask that. Right? Good companies don't ask that. It is, interviewer will not show their annoyance, right? Like I just showed. Right? They will not. But this will not go well. Right? The idea is to solve the problem. Folks, some of you are writing in the Q&A section and some of you are writing in the chat section. This is, so there are like two different purposes. There are these two things that are held with. Q&A section is when you have a question that you would want me to answer later after all this. While I'm discussing this problem and it is like live conversation, chat might be more useful. Right? Just FYI. Obviously, I will take questions on both sides, right? Towards the Q&A questions, I'll take towards the end. But chat might be just more conducive for a live conversation. Now, coming back, ask clarifying questions. If you don't ask clarifying questions, 1 or 2. Right? If you ask this time and space complexity, right? It's like most interviewers I know will be like, right? No, please don't. Like they are there to help you, but like not like that. Okay, now. At this point, right, you have to start solving the problem. We asked about case sensitivity and grouping, the input outcome. Right? Unicode, not Unicode. Good question. Good question. Not Unicode. Right? I'll say, let's not go to Unicode. ASCII. Just ASCII is fine. I will only give you ASCII characters in strings. Very good question, Mer. Now you're starting to solve it, right? When you come to Unicode, it's like, now you're starting to actually solve it. So how do you solve it? The first, if you think about it, right? Let's say you don't do anything optimized. The most brute force solution would be take the string, right? Save it, take the second string, compare the two strings and say, are they anagrams of each other? If they are anagrams of each other, you say, okay, group them. Third string, right? And then you take that third string and you match with every other string that you have seen and say, are they anagrams of this? If it is, you group it, right? Then the fourth string match with everything else. That obviously solves the problem, right? And how do you compare two strings and ascertain if they're anagrams of each other? Right? You just compare character by character, right? Like the most brute force solution. Let's say you're not able to think of anything else. Right? You're given a whole bunch of strings, right? And you keep comparing one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. Every new string comes in, you compare with everything else, right? What is the time complexity of that solution? Complete brute force solution. Anyone? N squared, yes. N squared, k squared, right? Because the absolute brute force of comparing two strings is you have k, then you keep comparing each letter within it. And yes, you can improve from k squared, but like order n squared or n squared k squared, right? So brute force n squared k squared, right? Now, what if this is the only thing you are able to think? Or the question is, should I be writing code for this brute force solution? Right? No, you should not be writing code for the brute force solution. Right? Unless this was the only thing you were able to think, that you are at the end of the interviewer is like, okay, fine, write something. Then sure. Otherwise, don't write brute force. But there is a massive benefit to writing brute force. The massive benefit is that now I understood that you have understood the damn problem. Right? You have understood the problem. So my job is done. You pushed me to a certain level in my delivery where I realized that my job is done. That you have fully understood the problem. Until then, as an interviewer, I couldn't tell at all, right? Whether you fully understood the problem or not. So now your brute force solution is out, right? Don't code it. Verbalize it, move on. When you present brute force, you know that you're not going to get a 1. Right? You may still get a 2, right? If you don't try harder after that. But you have started to move, right? Now, another good question I see on the chat. Can extra space be used, or like can I just muck with the strings that are coming in? Excellent question. I don't want you to muck the input. The input is read only. Allocate new output for it. Right? So you will have to use that much extra space. That is okay. I'm allowing you to do that. Because I don't want you to muck with the input. That input might be going somewhere else also in the function. I'm going to pass you by reference, and then the input is going somewhere else. Now, so the brute force solution is out, right? Now you have this fleeting feeling that, maybe this is not the most efficient. There's something else that can be done here. That feeling is critical feeling, folks. That feeling comes after practice. When you've seen several of these things is when it comes to you that, this can be improved. There's no antidote to practice. Now, obviously, more practice is better, right? There is really no end to it in that sense. But you can practice more intelligently as well, right? You can practice with patterns. You can practice fewer problems that open up doors for other problems and stuff, right? That's what we do at IK. But anyway, besides the point, now see, there is a fleeting feeling in my head. This can be improved. How can it be improved? It feels like the act of finding whether two strings are anagrams of each other seems to be inefficient. I shouldn't need to compare everything, right? I could maybe use a hash table, some lookup, right? I could look it up. If there is a new string that comes in, right? Can I just look it up whether that is that belongs to one of the existing groups here? So which means I need something that is common to anagrams, right? What is common to anagrams? Now, maybe use a map, yes. Yes. But what is common to anagrams? If you see anagrams, say eat, eat, ate, right? What is common to anagrams? Same characters, right? So when are sorted, yes, Mallikarjun, you're absolutely right. When the strings are sorted, they will end up being the same. Right? And frequency could also be the same. Let's say you're not able to think of frequency for a second. So, oh, if I sort AET, right? They're all the same, right? So why don't I try that? Get a string, sort it, right? Stick that sorted string as a key into a map, right? So in this case, AET, right? Let's assume case sensitivity for a second. Let's keep that aside for a second. I understand it makes it slightly more complicated, but let's discuss that a bit later. Let's try to drive the point home. AET is the sorted representation, right? And then I get the first string, I sort it, stick it in, right? Then I get the second one, which is say EAT, right? And I sort that also, and I get AET. And then I look up in the lookup table to say, oh, AET exists, which means this just goes with this group. And then STO comes. STO comes, I sort it. I say, okay, OST is the sorted string, right? Now, OST doesn't match AET. So that means it's a new group, right? Okay, new group starts, that's fine. Right? And then comes TEA, and then I sort it again. So AET, oh, this one matches AET. Actually, first I have to put 8, then EAT, right? Yeah. Aha. Then OTS comes. OTS matches the sorting of OTS is again OST. So right, matches this, right? Then TOS comes. Similarly, sorting matches this, right? So I look up, it's a map, sorted string to all the anagrams that sort to the same string. Right? Now we arrived at this point. Now check whether this is more efficient, feels more efficient, right? Feels more efficient because you have to only go through the entire list once. You don't have to compare all strings to all other strings. Right? So what is the time complexity of this solution? We sorted the string, we sort each string, right? We do a lookup into the lookup table as well. Right? Order of nk, n log n. We log k. Karan Mayur, spot on. So when you sort something, right, the canonical way of sorting, canonical time complexity of sorting is k log k. Right? If there are k characters in a string, right? I said length k, right? So in order to sort a string, you will spend k log k time, right? And then you will do that for n different strings, right? So k log k times n, right? Nk log k. Now you will look up, but lookup is constant, right? Not always. When the hash table is big, it is not constant. Remember that. But let's park that for a second right now. Nk log k. Right? And there is some cost to adding, right? Appending this string. If you tomorrow you have a different one after this, right? You need to append, right? You need to append. Say TAE comes tomorrow. You need to append it. There's some cost to appending, right? So that cost depends on the data structure you choose for the value here. There is a key, and then this whole thing is the value, right? This is a map. Key, set of Key and the value, key and the value. The data structure you use for values dictates how many, like what is the cost of appending. For now, let's say what, okay, let me pose as a question. What is the data structure where the cost of appending is constant? Linked list, very good. Yes, yes, excellent. Linked list, excellent. The cost of appending is constant in a linked list. Right? Now, in Java, array list also amortized, it's fine, right? But linked list very purely cost of appending is constant. So let's assume that you use the linked list here, and the cost of appending was constant. So you loop through the strings, you sort each one. If you don't find it in the map, stick it in as the key, the sorted representation, right? And itself, right? And then take the second one, see if you find it, append it, otherwise create a new one, and then you could loop through the whole thing. You're done. Time complexity, NK log K. Space complexity is this entire table, right? Now I didn't give you a choice to muck with the input, so you'll have to create a new one. Right? So the space complexity, your minimum space complexity is going to be NK, because I ask you to store all the strings again, right? N times K. But your additional space complexity, right, that you will use in order to solve the problem with this method is going to be worst case again NK, right? Because in worst case there may be no anagrams, right? And you have sorted representation and its string, sorted representation in string, right? And then N times K. All strings are their own keys, and then each of them are values. So minimum space complexity and additional space complexity. So order NK. Okay. Now. Can we do better? Now again, this sense of yes, we can do. Yes, we can do better. Right? That comes with some practice. In this case, we know that while most algorithms are K log K, sorting can also be done in order K or linear time. That is a lower bound on sorting. Is there a way to do more efficient sorting? If you've done several sorting problems, which is the first class at IK, you understand that there is something called bucket sort, counting sort or bucket sort, same thing, roughly the same thing. The idea is the same, where you ask the question, right? Somebody asked, I think Mayur asked earlier, was it Unicode or not? Is there a certain set number of characters that you're giving us? Yes, right? I said ASCII. Remember, I said ASCII. I'm only giving you ASCII characters, which means there is a certain limited number. At this point, if I say ASCII, right? If you don't know what ASCII is, that is actually a problem. Right? That is a problem. Now, obviously, ASCII is slightly older. Now it has been superseded by Unicode. Right? But simply not knowing what ASCII is, right? Like, okay. It's not a make or break in the interview, but like it's like rings a bell. Right? If you don't know what ASCII is, maybe you don't know what Unicode is either. Right? You may have asked Unicode, but you may have asked in a very fluffy manner. Right? So you don't exactly understand what Unicode is. So I will try and probe a little bit. If you ask Unicode or ASCII and such like that, I will slightly probe as an interviewer. You say, you know what ASCII is, right? The mapping. And you'd say yes. So ASCII is, there's 256, right? Including extended ASCII. 128 is what I'm concerned with. And I'll tell you, I'm only concerned with printable characters, right? And you may not know how many characters of 128 are printable characters. Right? I'll tell you 95 are. You can ask, right? Only 95 characters are printable. Right? First 32 characters are not printable. The last one is not printable. The rest are printable characters. And I would give you, the strings that I give you will be from 95 printable characters. Now what? So now you know that there are only 95 characters that the strings can be composed of. I'm not saying K is 95. The length can be much higher than 95, but then only the alphabet size is 95. Right? Now, can you do better? Right? That's the question. And yes, you can do better, right? And somebody also presented that earlier. We can make a frequency map, right? What else is common to anagrams? We are going back, right, in the thinking process to say what else is common to anagrams. The frequency of characters is common to anagrams, right? In these three anagrams, A happened once, T happened once, and E happened once. Right? So what you can also do is you can count the frequency of how many characters happen how many times. Okay? And that becomes your key, not the sorted representation, right? And the calculation of how many characters happen how many times is order K, right? Order K or the size of the string or 95. It's fixed, right, in this case. So how do you do it? What you do is use allocate an array of 95 or 128. Right? Let's say you did not know that and you wanted 120. That's fine. Or you allocate an array of 95 characters. In each of them, right, you figure out the frequency of each character and you keep incrementing that. That becomes your sorted representation. So, for example, right, if the string was CBA, CBAA, CB, right, the representation would be you would have an array of 0 to 94, right? These are characters. And why characters? What is the assumption we are making? Not integers, right? Because the assumption we are making is that each character will not happen more than a certain number of times, right? So let's say there are characters and it was a 95 byte array that was allocated, right? And so based on the ASCII values, right? You could also just, to make it easier on you, you could just say 127. You have an array of 127, 128 bytes allocated, and the corresponding ASCII value of the character that comes in is incremented, right? So for example, small a is 95, so the number 95 you do plus 1, right? B is number 96, 97, right? So 95 you will do plus 1, 96 you will do plus 1, 97 you will do plus 1, right? And so eventually it will be all zeros, right? And then somewhere it will have 1 1 1, then all zeros. Okay. That will be the representation, like 128 byte representation, which is common to the set of anagrams, right? When EAT comes, same thing, right? TEA comes, same thing, right? In this case, right, if AA, BBCC comes, same thing will happen. It will result in, I should say 2 to 2 each. I may have gone a little bit too fast, but you understand, I think. It is just a frequency of characters, right? And you are allocating a character map, and for the corresponding ASCII values, you are incrementing each of them. Similarly, this will also result in exact same frequency map. That frequency map converted to a string becomes your key inside the array. Now, is this solution better than the previous one, right? So this solution will be something like this, right? You have this entire map, right, sitting, right, for this and this, right? And then similarly, a different map sitting for some other strings, right? Like that, and yet another map again, right? All 128, right? Map sitting for yet another string. So that will be our output. Now, is this better than the previous one? How do we tell? What is one way to tell whether this is better than the previous one? In what sense is it better? Could it be better? Time complexity, yes. We are not sorting. Yes, we are not we are sorting, but we are sorting with on a constant array. Right? We are not taking the time on to like compare each character and sort and all that. Right? We are doing the frequency sort, counting sort, bucket sort, same thing. Right? Whatever the length of the string is, right? In this situation, you are only allocating 128 bytes and you are only going over the string once. If k happens to be 10,000, each string is 10,000 characters long, right? You will still not need more than this, very likely. And also you will only need to go through it once, right? It will not be k log k. The time complexity of this will be just k, order k, right? Order nk will be time complexity. Now, what is the space complexity of this? And is it necessarily better in the same space complexity? Space complexity is, see, nk space complexity, we are minimum taking in, right? Right. Yes, 127 bytes for times n, right? Like 127 times n, because worst case we, yes, worst case will be n of them, correct. Now there was a question about why store these zeros. Very good question. Very good question. Can it be a different data structure? Instead of this array, can it be a different data structure? It can be a different data structure. Right? It's possible. Now, that decision is made by talking to the interviewer. How many times will each character happen? Right? Here, we have assumed 1 byte. 1 byte can store how many? One byte can store, what is the maximum number you can store in 1 byte? Yes, 256, correct. 255 to be more precise, yes. Exactly. So if a character happens more than 255 times, this solution doesn't work, right? So you have to ask the interviewer, because the interviewer didn't tell you anything about K, right? But your sense of improvement, yes, you said ASCII, yes, but how many times each character happens, I didn't say anything, right? It could be ASCII, but it could be happening 10,000 times, right? And then you can't store that 10,000 in a single byte, right? You'll need a bigger place. So this solution needs a dialogue with the interviewer. The space complexity is not necessarily better than the previous one, because k could be small. If k is very small, k is smaller than 127, space complexity is not better. Interesting, right? Interesting. Now, if I reduce this problem down and said I'm only going to give you letters and not ASCII, the problem becomes very simple. There is no really trade-off and such. This simple version is actually on lead code somewhere, right? And that is not what the interviewer will ask you, right? They know that you've done some of these things, right? So they will twist the problem. And this is a very popular twist of ASCII. Right? It's a simple twist, but leads to a lot of dialogue. That is what the interviewer is optimizing for, right? Now, if you came about to this solution, right, and then you had this conversation with the interviewer about whether this is an acceptable solution based on what I had in mind, what the interviewer had in mind about K, right? This solution is very dependent on K. That would be very good. Then now you are going to a 3, right? You're potentially going beyond 3. Coming to this, having this sense, you demonstrated this improvement sense twice. Once you were at n squared k squared, and then you went to nk log k. Very good. And then you demonstrated again. That is a 3. Okay, check the boxes. And then you had the dialogue and you had the maturity to say, okay, k is very small, I'll stick to the other one. When k is very small, log k doesn't really add much. While this second solution that we came about is slightly is more time efficient. It is only nk, right? It's only nk, but it is slightly more complicated to implement. So that maturity I like, to say you asked and figured and say, okay, I will not go there because slightly more complicated. Now, at this point, some people who are more mathematically inclined would say, boss, prime numbers. What else is common? What else is common? What we could do is that we could assign each of these ASCII characters, each of these alphabet characters, a prime number. Product of primes is also unique, right? And so you can take a product. If there is something associated with A and E and T, right? You make a product of that, and then you have it in any order. The product is going to remain the same. Yeah, that makes sense, right? When I presented this very naive looking statement earlier, right? Obviously, I'm guessing you didn't think this would go to primes, right? N strings written group of anagrams. Right? This is interesting, isn't it? Makes sense. But will you implement that solution? That's the question. That is actually the $1,000,000 question that takes you from 384. Right? You can implement that solution. You can actually say, okay, let's find first 128 prime numbers, associate each prime number with one of the ASCII letters, ASCII characters. Right? Look it up, right? And do the product, and then the product is going to be unique, and that becomes the key, right, in the map. But realize the complexity of implementing that solution. Right? A product of first 20 primes will overflow your integer. And then you will say, okay, I'll use long. Well, technically, sure. You can use long. You go higher, like first like 40 primes or something, you'll overflow long. Right? And say, okay, so I'll use long int, right? Long int or long int. Okay, kick the can down the road and you go first like 80 primes and you go for long int. Now what? Now, depending on the language, you'll write a big integer class, right? Or use it and stuff where integers are represented by strings. All the math happens with strings in there. Now, the question is, will you take this complexity on, right? Will you take this complexity on? You can take the complexity on. If the alphabet is small, right? It's only 26. You could take that, still take the complexity on. Alphabet is small and K is small. Right? If I tell you that K is very small and I'm not going to give you all the ASCII set, only 26 letters in the alphabet. Then you can take that on, right? It will be faster to implement, right? The runtime will be faster, right? Because multiplication is much faster. But I want you to have that dialogue, especially if you have had any experience, 2, 3, 5 years, 7, 10 years experience in coding. I want that dialogue. Right? If you did not go to prime numbers, you'll stop at 3, you'll get a 3 with this. Right? If you, assuming you had this dialogue with me about what is the size of K and stuff. But if you had the conversation of prime numbers, right, and you yourself realize that, so no, this is very difficult, right? I won't actually take that complexity on because the code will become unreadable, that this problem does not need this massive a solution. That is what pushes you to 4. That is how this thing is graded. Now, we haven't even come to coding yet. Then you would write code for whichever solution it is agreed upon, right, which you think is right. And when you write code, right, you will not fumble too much. Everybody fumbles a little bit. That's okay. Not fumble too much. Right? But if you just do hand wavy pseudocode, right, after coming this far, you'll drop down. Say, There's no urge to write code. There's no urge to be detail oriented and precise. This is coding profession, right? You need to be detail oriented. So that is how this thing is graded. Right? It's very much a date. Right? There are other interviewers at Interview Kickstart who will not give you a 3 if you even reach this solution. They will wait for you to write code, and only if you write code really quickly is when they give you a 3 or 4. I don't mind. Right? I think when you write that too quickly, make more mistakes. But if you have excellent clarity in your mind, you will not fumble in writing code. I've seen that over and over again. I don't worry about it. If I am your manager, right, you come this far, I develop a level of trust with you that you have the sense that this can be improved. Right? I will not be called in the night saying that there is some inefficient code pushed out and the site is slow. That is the trust I want to develop with you. That is how I'm going to grade it. So again, I repeat, there is a grading scale. Um, absolute grading scale on this. Right? One is like when you just don't know what's happening. Two is like you tried something, like in this problem, you came to a brute force solution and you tried and nothing really worked after that. Then you go to 2+ when you come to like the sorting solution, right? But you don't go beyond that. You're like, yeah, I realize that you tried, but like there was something else there. You were trying to do it, but you didn't come to that. It's like 2+, fine. Okay, well tried. And then 3, when you do there, when you come to like this frequency count and you compare that with what is k, what is the alphabet size, and all that. Then you discuss primes and you pick the right solution, go back to one of your solutions and say, no, this is the right one. That's a 4. That's how it is graded. So folks, that's what I wanted to tell you. That's the point I wanted to drive home, that interviews are closer to a date, right? Don't get into this thing, into the wedge of just test cases, passing and it's all fine. You have to be able to like solve the problem with the interviewer, and that's when you get a good grade. Okay, now that's all I had, folks. I do see some questions, so I'm going to take questions here. I'm first going to go through the chat and then I want to go through Q&A. We obviously didn't go through like very precisely on case sensitivity and stuff, right? Duplicates, case sensitivity, all that. Duplicates were taken care of, but case sensitivity was not, right? But that wasn't the point. Right? Unicode and yep. Looks like. Would you use a linked list, array list, or a set in case of duplicates? Generally linked list, Mayur. Right? If I were asking the question, I would obviously want the candidate to pick the right data structure and justify why they're picking the right data structure. Right. Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to do the Q&A. Okay, there is one more question on chat, and then I'm going to shift to Q&A. Folks, you can either upvote one of the questions on Q&A or put your own. Is it okay to repeat the question asked to you to make sure you understood the question? Yes, Mallikarjun, that's fine. That's just normal human conversation. Right? Don't overthink either. Don't overthink either. I managed to search a 2D Boolean matrix silent problem. I got that one. Might be too lengthy. Yes, right. At this point, too lengthy. What if you ask a question and reply, interview replies, why does this question matter? Will this ever happen? Yes, Hari, it's possible. If the question you ask is completely oddball, they will be wondering like, why does this question matter? And then that is fine. You have to justify why the question matters. Yeah. If I know the fastest solution to a problem already, then should I start with a solution with a worse complexity and work my way up? If you know the fastest solution, Syed, just admit it. Right? Hey, I think I know this. Don't be like overcommittal. And don't say, of course I know this. Right? Like, okay, hold on 1 second. Yes. Yeah, so of course I know this. Look at this. This is the fastest solution. That turns people off, right? To say, hey, I may have seen this before, right? And then ask presumptive questions, right? You mean you don't need the sorted order, right? And you mean that duplicates are okay, yes, and stuff. So like, and then so you see brute force, you can do this. The other one you can do this. Like you can do it with sorting. You can also do it with frequency count. Depends on the size of k. Is k too very small or k very big? Right. So that's that way you should handle that. Right? I hope that helps. Come to the fake book where you're supposed to solve 2 problems. How can you go in depth with 1 question or problem? Ganesh, very good question. How can you go in depth with 2? So generally when they expect you to solve 2 questions, there are two medium problems. Right? That's one. This problem can be solved in 20 minutes with the dialogue. Right? Like when you've done enough practice, this problem can be solved in 20 minutes. This is quite okay. Sometimes it is one short problem and then one slightly more than medium problem. That takes about 30 minutes. But this one, 20 minutes. Um, but you still have to converse, right? The point is to solve something with you so they can get enough signal out of you. This question took 30 minutes in itself. Facebook had to many questions. What can I? Depends on your thought process. Really, that's the thing. I mean, I was explaining this thing. That's why in teaching, this problem can take. I've taken 90 minutes also when I've written code and all of it, right, to just teach this problem. Right? But when you are writing it, like when you have enough practice, Akshat, what happens is you get the sense more quickly. Does evaluation differ from a Sagar? Evaluation differs, but don't overthink all this. Many people shift from one company to other and back to other and all that, and it's very interviewer dependent. Generally speaking, Facebook expects you to write fast code on easier problems. Google expects you to show very mature thought process on harder problems. That's like general broad brush. Right? But you can't optimize your life like that. Right? You just have to practice. The only thing in your hands is to practice. The rest of it, let it be on them. Right? What panel comes to you is up to you. Is up to them. Right? Not in your control. So, but yes, rearrangements, same length assumption is not necessary. Yes, you're right. Ashwin, you're absolutely correct. Same assumption is not necessary. I made several simplifying assumptions for the problem. Case sensitivity matters as well. Yes, it does. Yes, it matters in the sense that it is either one has to decide whether you want it or you don't want it. If you don't want case sensitivity, there is stuff that you have to do more. Correct? Do we have duplicate strings? Karthik, I hope that is answered. Duplicate was answered, right? When you do frequency count, it's sorting. What does that really matter? Is there no anagrams? If there no, throw exception, return empty. No, not empty data list. Just return the entire thing. Right? Assume that there is a group of 1. Is there too many questions? Should you assume some things and tell them that you're assuming some things? You could, yes, Fernando. That is right. Some obvious things you can assume. Right? Absolutely. In online interviews, it's okay to repeat the question and make sure we actually understand the question. Yes, Mallikarjun, that's fine. Same list of characters when sorted and locked. Okay, array. I think there's some answers. Sorry. In an interview, would it make a difference if I said I used an array, even if I assume the amortized time, but I don't say anything? Fernando, good question. So in this particular case, you should say this is why you are using an array, because you know that appending, you don't want to take the complexity of appending, right? And in an array, you will not get the complexity of appending because of this reason. And complexity is better, yes, yeah. 8 bits, yes. In what situation we pick it off? In what situation we pick the optimal solution that's best for both time and space complexity? See, John, that is the point here. What is best is subjective to the interviewer, and you have to suss that out. Some problems it is obvious, but the problems where it is obvious are either very easy problems or very hard problems. For everything in the middle, which is about 60% of the problems, needs you to do, right? And so pick that out. Okay, yeah. Sorry, folks. Looks like my internet connection went off a little bit, but John, I was answering your question that optimal solution is really what the interviewer thinks is optimal. And this is a very particular, very interesting, very particular problem, which is neither too hard, neither not too easy, sits in the middle, and you have to suss it out and then pick it up. So you need to discuss solutions, but then it's okay to tell the examiner which one you implement, since others may take too long. Yes, yes. Like for the situation in the interviewer's mind, what is the right solution? That is the point. Right? What grade is if you mess code for frequency solution bug? Jane, look, everybody has bugs, right? I have had bugs in my code, right? My interviewers have had bugs in their code. Your interviewer sitting in the room has had bugs open in their code. Having a bug is not an issue, but leaving the code without finding the bug is the issue. If you're leaving the code with the bug, 2 plus. If I know the prime number solution, start with that. Solution should go step by step. Dinesh, yes, some mathematically, very good question. Some mathematically inclined people start with prime number solution, right, to this. But even if you start with prime number solution, in this particular case, when you know that the alphabet size is 128, right, you realize that it is quite complicated to implement. And as if you are a senior engineer, right, even senior meaning at 2, 3, 5 years experience, even you need to have a sense that, boss, there is something better here. Right? I shouldn't be going with prime number. So you may start with prime number, but then you come back and say, so this seems very complicated. Where do I start? Right? That way. Can you use different programming language for interviews? Maybe one problem Java seems most feasible. Yes, well, that's fine. You can use them in. That's entirely fine. Entirely fine. Don't like, but there's no massive advantage to it, right? Like, it's like, if you feel Java is easier for something, go for it. If you know and feel, yes, that's interviews usually. Good companies, people don't mind. Right? Do you have any suggestions for language preference, solving coding question? In my day job, I use Java. People say it's better to lead code and interview in Python. So Ganesh, the idea is that if you are a Java person, if you have a few years of experience in Java, stick to it. Like Python is easier, yes, but Python is easier for people who don't know other languages. Right? To pick up Python is easier, right? In that sense. But it takes a while to get good at it. So if you've had enough experience in Java, just use that. Java is a first-class language. Do we have to compile and run it after implementation? Yes. What we will do, in the interview, depends on the interview. Here, what we'll do is we will give you a link to our software, right? Interview Kickstart software. It's called Up Level. And I will set a different problem in there, which will compile and run and make the test cases pass. And then discuss on the discussion board, what do you think 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 is going to be, right, on this? I will answer it. I will chime in. I will answer your questions as well. For it, we will give you a different problem to solve. Just one problem for the sake of discussion on this. So sometime today, you can expect that. If I didn't actually realize a bug and the interviewer goes through and asks me to find a bug and I'm able to find it after, doesn't it affect my performance grade here? Yes, Shirisha, it does. It does. Now, if that is the only thing that happened and everything else was quick, doesn't. But if that thing happened and you are already at like 35-minute mark for the problem, usually one mistake is not a problem, right? When second one starts to happen, instead of this, then signal starts to form. Right? That's when it goes against you. If I reach the solution 3, implemented, and then had a suggestion to interview about prime solution, but did not implement, you don't need to implement prime number, right? You need to, without implementation, you need to realize that the prime number solution is a little too much to implement. You don't have to implement. Implement you only one, right? Not even brute force, right? Sorting solution, not even implement if you, until you realize that this is the solution, only then you implement. Right? Implementation code, if you write, it's like 10 lines, right? All you got to do really is loop, right? Take the string, right? Do the processing on it, whether it is sorting or whether it is like frequency counting, right? Stick it into a hash table, right? If it is not found, right? And append, right? That's it. That's all there is to it, and they take the next string. So there is not that much work in terms of coding, right? So, but you have to realize that, right? On this, and you only implement one solution. Some companies wanted a runnable code and took a lot of time for correcting syntax, even if your logic is correct. Yes, like it is important to have the urge for precision, right? It is okay to not remember the exact syntax, but it is not okay to say that I will just leave the code somewhere and maybe there is a bug here and there and stuff like that. No, no, no. Right? You are thinking about interviewing and becoming a part of some of the strongest technical teams on the planet. Right? Those teams are very prideful and not as forgivable. Right? They don't forgive very quickly. Right? And so you have to you have to rise to their standard. Sometimes the standard is just the whiteboard, right? That's fine, and that's the standard, and that's okay. Right? Sometimes the standard is runnable code. Right? Then you have to rise to that standard, right? At the end of the day, you want them as much as they want you, right? So unfortunately, you're right there. Do you agree that getting positive is less likely when you have not seen similar problem, given that you have less than 20 minutes? Flow link is random point number one. Yes. Yeah. You don't have to see the exact problem, right? But you have to practice enough such that you have proper patterns loaded in your head. And it is pretty rare, right, to get the exact same problems that you have done. Even when you get the exact same problems, there are twists on it. Right? So then, and you go to sites like Spots, there are 16,000 problems. And LeetCode only has 1,000, HackerRank has 1,000, and something. But there are 16,000 problems in Spots. There's no way to see all the problems beforehand. The only way to actually properly do this is with some patterns, and then putting a limit on your time. That's it. That's how I'm going to do. And calibrate to harder problems, right? Which is what we do in the course. We calibrate to slightly harder problems, medium to challenging ones. We do patterns as well, right? And then we push you to a point where you feel like this is sufficient. Right? This is what you could do. Is multi-threading thread support something that is expected to be highly experienced with for L5 roles? They test you? Yes, Mayur. Listen, they don't like explicitly test you unless you come from that background. But once in a random while, an interviewer will say, okay, now make it thread safe, right? Some innocuous statement like that will kill the interview for you. So, and you have, as a software engineer, you need to know what thread safe code is. That's just like, it should be a matter of pride, right? Adding to the programming language question, most of my day-to-day work is C. Most of the roles I apply for also are for C firmware portal, but it's really hard to use for C. What is good strategy? Can I use C? Yes, you can. I mean, ask the recruiter, right? Just right there, straight up ask the recruiter, can I use C or Python, like C, C++ or Python? Recruiter will tell you right there, right? If the recruiter says, no, you have to use C, you don't waste your time, right? If you don't want to use C after that, right? That is what, stay on your side, right? Stay on your side, be more confident. Is it good to test with some examples after finish coding? Should it take 20 minutes even with testing? Yes. This problem should take 20 minutes with testing, with dialogue, with coding, with delivery. Right? That this is a 20-minute problem. Does IK have flexible financing for people not in the US? No, we don't. Sorry, appreciate that. Appreciate your interest, but we apologize. Have seen list of test cases that we write being asked. How to be prepared? Sorry, Mallikarjun, I don't understand exactly what you mean. Please, do you mind repeating the last question as well? Not related with security, giving current except Amazon, other Faang companies interviewing. Yes, they're interviewing. Like, listen, Facebook was interviewing for E4 until very recently. E5, they are still hiring. 6, 7, 8, they are hiring. Google, they are not able to fill quotas even today for E5, 6, 7, and 8, right, on it. So, like, deal with this pandemic as if there is no pandemic. Your job search is going to be much better. Right? You are at home, privileged. All of us are, right? Me too. Deal with it with the privilege of time and just apply. You'll find something nice. Right. Obviously, there is a lot more to be said about it. I'm just being cautious of time. Folks, it is 10:30. Wow. Okay, three more questions. All right, folks. Let this be the end of questions. I appreciate all your time. We will all send you link to up level. Let me just take the last three that have come. I joined later, missed. Can I find the webinar recording later? Yes, you will. What test cases would you write for this? Good question, Mallikarjun. Good question. What test cases would you write? Um, write start with the main test cases and then go with a couple of edge cases. Right? Don't take the stress of writing like 20,000 test cases. First, the main ones should pass, and then some edge cases should pass. That's it. Right? That's the only idea. Don't overthink this. Right? Go to like 90% solution on this. An interview, we should write a test case for our code also. Not always, Anushil. Not always. You don't have to always write test cases. Test cases are to be written to get your own confidence. Right? How are you confident if you're not writing test cases? Right? It's not like because I want it. Right? How are you confident? Right? How do you turn around and even utter a single word, right, when you don't write test cases for yourself? Right? So write test cases which are like, okay, here is the main one, here are the two edge ones. This is fine. More than anything else, you should understand what an invariant is. Right? When you understand what an invariant is when you will get a much better handle on the solution, and you will not need too many test cases. This is a problem with just one loop, single loop, nothing else. And so you need to look up loop invariant. Right? Look up loop invariant. When you get a good understanding of loop invariant after solving a few problems, like, you will realize that you will need fewer test cases to justify your own solution. Right? Okay. All right, folks. Wow, there are three more. Okay, folks. If you need any information on Interview Kickstart, right, just sign up on our website and get it, right, or reach out to your program advisor if you've already tried once. I'm not here to answer too many questions on Interview Kickstart. Okay. And there are some more questions. At interviews, should you write test cases? Are mid-sized startups interviews same as Faang? Yes, Tavish. Yes, everybody has algorithms and such. Will a candidate lose out due to remote on-site interviews given the design will require a lot of... No, won't lose out. There are ways to handle interviews. Remote interviews are nothing new. Right? These guys have been doing it for a long time. Look up our blog post. Interview Kickstart has a blog post, which is an excellent blog, right? The best on the web that you'll find, very comprehensive on how to handle remote interviews, right? You will see list of tools. They'll remind you for so many different things. Right? Can you explain process more about how IK can help us? We do cover mock interviews. Folks, as you know, Interview Kickstart is here to help. Right? We run courses to help you for technical interviews. This is exactly what we do in the program. Right? We really orient you to what these interviews are and how can you succeed through this. Right? We have classes, homework, tests. Right? Mock interviews, very structured program, very structured flexibility, right, in the program, so you can do it part-time as well. And then we have cohorts that start every 2 weeks. Right? So sometimes actually even more frequently than that. If you're interested, just please do reach out on the website, and then we'll be very happy to give you all the information you need for it. If you have any single, even small desire.
Soham, this is Ryan. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, Ryan.
Okay. Guys, sorry, I'm just going to jump in here. So for those of you who want to know more about Interview Kickstart, right, it's very simple. There are two ways to find out. One way is the most obvious, which is just go to the website. It's www.interviewkickstart.com. On there, you can sign up for a webinar. Okay. Soham and I run webinars multiple times where we explain the course in detail and, various options that you have. I'm sure you'll find a time that suits you. Please feel free to go. It's quite a useful session, right? To learn about what we do at Interview Kickstart. The other way, if you have something, very specific that you want to ask us about, just send us an email at start@interviewkickstart.com, right? And one of us will undoubtedly reach out to you with a specific answer to your question. But for the generic understanding of Interview Kickstart, you can just sign up for the webinar. I saw this, somebody had asked a question saying, do you cover mock interviews? We have actually just launched it. I'm not sure if it's up live on the website as yet, but yes, we have just launched a mock interview only package. But in general, what we see is that it's much better to do mock interviews once you've done some preparation. And in all our courses that we offer, we have a significant number of mock interviews. Those mock interviews are actually conducted by actual hiring managers, right? Folks who are currently hiring managers at Facebook, Amazon, Google, a lot of tech leads as well. Fundamentally, everybody who does these interviews they are people who are actively interviewing at the Facebooks and the Googles of the world. Soham himself actually has done, I don't know, some possibly upwards of 1,500 interviews, maybe close to 2,000, right? And so, yes, right? Now,
Right.
so for more information, just log on to the website, sign up for a webinar, or send us an email at start@interviewkickstart.com. Okay, let's focus this session on asking questions to Soham on what he's been talking about. All right, folks, thanks. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump in to clarify.
No, I think we are done. Actually, the timing was an hour, and we are already more than half an hour out. So I think we're done.
Okay, guys, I just want to thank Soham. I want to thank all of you for making the time to be here today. Right, this is something that we want to do on a regular basis. We plan to do these sessions every couple of weeks. We have a whole bunch of interesting sessions coming up. The next session, ironically, is a session that I am doing, which is on how to overcome interview anxiety. If any of you face interview anxiety, feel free to come and attend the session. For any of you who have friends, right, who struggle with this problem, it's quite common. Just feel free to send the link out to them as well. Okay. All right, folks, keep in touch with us. Keep looking out for these sessions. Thank you very much, Soham. Phenomenal session. Thanks, guys. Thank you for all your questions. And I look forward to seeing you guys at the up and coming events.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, John. Bye.